ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue in the book of Kitaab At-Tawheed on this date of September the 14th, Friday, 7:41 p.m., which coincides with that which is the Hijri calendar, which now we in the new year of the 3rd of Muharram, 1440 of the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam, or after the Hijrah of Mustafa, after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. And we said, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, as we continue, we wind down in the final part of this lesson from the chapter of from polytheism is to put forth that aspect of worship which is called what everyone? Istighatha. Or to invoke other than Allah. We stopped at the ayah which is in Surah An-Namal, Namal, N-A-M-L, Noon, Mim, Lam. Namal. N-A-M-L, Surah An-Namal, Noon, Mim, Lam. Surah An-Namal. If you notice in your books, and everyone looks in it, the ayah. Allah Ta'ala says in his book, وَمَنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah Ta'ala says, who is the one that answers the muttar? Who is the muttar? The one who's facing severe stress and hardship and adversity in his life. Who is the one that answers the muttar? When Allah, if he calls on Allah, and Allah removes that hardship, or removes that stress, or removes that hardship and difficulty that he's facing. Is there a deity along with Allah that deserves to be worshipped? He said, very little do you remember or take heed. طيب. We talked about, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, if you go back at the ayah, as we talked about last lesson, do not look in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just suffice by what is in your book. Rather go back a little bit. As we talked about prior, or in the prior lesson, notice that Allah Ta'ala mentions in his book, what everyone? أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً وأنزل لكم من السماء ماء فأنبتنا به حدائق ذات بهجة ما كان لكم أن تنبتوا شجرها. We talked about ayah Surah An-Namal, ayah number 60. So go back a little bit. Go back in the book of Allah, in those ayat. If you look at Surah An-Namal, ayah number 60. So now we're not just focused on what's in the book. Entire everything together. As you'll find that there's examples of this all throughout the book of Allah, Jalla fil Ula, as we said. Allah Ta'ala says in his book, as for the one who created the heavens and the earth. Which category of Tawheed, of monotheism is that, everyone? That's Tawheed, what everyone? Rububiyyah, ahsantum. Uluhiyya or Rububiyyah or Asma' Sifat? Which one? Rububiyyah. Rububiyyah. What is Tawheed or Rububiyyah, everyone? The Lordship of Allah. But what does that mean? Single out Allah Ta'ala by what? Focus, astaghfirullah. Camden and, I forgot your astaghfirullah. Caden. Focus. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the category of the Lordship of Allah, is singling out Allah by His actions. What He does. What He does. The actions of Allah. It's Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. You will read a lot of verses in the Quran. Allah will mention His actions, maybe some certain context twice, certain context 3 times, certain context 4 times, some context 5 times, certain context 6 or 7 times. All of that in what? For an ultimate goal. And the ultimate what? Goal behind it. It's another affair in which the human being was created for, of why he exists in the first place, or the reason for his existence. That will come. But what we're talking about now is singling out Allah Ta'ala by His actions. Right, everyone? You'll find this in so many ayat in the book of Allah. As we talked about in Surah Yunus, Surah Al-Baqarah, you'll find ayat Allah talking about He brings the death back to life, the life back to death. He will what? He administrates the affairs of the creation. He sent the rain down to the earth. He brought forth vegetation. He also made the earth stable. Then He made the mountains as pegs. Then He made the rivers flow, in which He made the seas not have. Calm down, everyone, as far as the kids. No problem. Just tell them to go to the back more. Just go a little bit further back. That's all. They can wheel the car. Just tell them to go back. That's it. Boom, boom. Take them to the back. Take them to the back. There you go. That you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He mentioned a lot of ayat, that He mentions His actions. And you'll mention certain contexts twice, 3 times in certain ayats, 4 times in other ayats, 5 times in other ayats, 6 times in other ayats, 7 times. One ayah, Allah Ta'ala mentions something from His actions 7 times. In another context, 8. What is an example of that? The example of that, for example. Well, Allah Ta'ala says in His book, He says, on the day of resurrection, يَوْمَ نَحْشُرُهُمْ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ نَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا مَكَانَكُمْ أَنْتُمْ وَشُرَكَاؤُكُمْ فَزَيَّنَّا بَيْنَهُمْ وقال شركاؤهم ما كنتم إيانا تعبدون فكفى بالله شهيدا بيننا وبينكم إن كنا عن عبادتكم لغافلين هنالك تبلو كل نفس ما أسلفت وردوا إلى الله مولاهم الحق وضل عنهم ما كانوا يفترون. Listen to this. On the day we will bring all of them together, everyone. The human beings, the jinn, the unseen creation from the jinn, which a lot of people worship or a lot of people are scared of, as Allah created them too. He said on the day we'll bring them all together. He says, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا, and those who are worshipped along with Allah in this world, from those idols and human beings, they will say, مَا كُنْتُمْ إِيَّانَا تَعْبُدُونَ. He says it wasn't us who you used to worship. For verily it sufficed between us and you, meaning as Allah, as a witness, verily we were totally heedless of you worshiping us. I mean, we were totally unaware. طيب, let's get down to, so now here in this particular ayah, Allah Ta'ala is establishing what? His worship. Basically everything else that's besides Him being either worshipped along with Him or independently, solely being worshipped besides Him, all of them on the day of resurrection are going to what? Reject it. Focus, Jamar, focus. طيب. Now Allah Ta'ala mentions the reasons. Once He's established the affair of the ibadah, now He mentions the reasons. Now listen to it now, what we talked about last week. And it's also mentioned this ayah here in Surah An-Naml, where He says, هُنَالِكَ تَبْلُو كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا أَسْلَفَتْ وَرُدُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ مَوْلَاهُمُ الْحَقِّ وَضَلَّ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَفْتُرُونَ. He says that every soul will follow what he used to worship in his dunya. Every soul will be put to test and trial on the day of resurrection of what it used to follow in this world. And then the people will be returned back to Allah, their true Mawla, the true and only one, Mawla. And it will go astray. What they used to what? Fabricate. Meaning as far as what they used to associate along with Allah as partners. طيب. Now listen to this. مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Who gives you sustenance from the heavens and the earth? Which category monotheism? مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. Who owns the eyes and who owns the what? The hearing. Which category Tawheed? How many times have I mentioned this so far? مَنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارِ وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. How many times who is the one who provides for you the heavens and the earth? مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. Who owns the sights and the hearing? Who is the one? مَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. Who will bring out the life from the dead? How many times so far? Who will bring وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ مَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. And who will bring out the dead from the living? How many times so far? They will say Allah. But if that's the case, then we not unite Him and worship and fear Him. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ. That is your Lord, your true what? Your Lord. How many times? Which category Tawheed? 5. Because it's still saying Rabb. Anytime you hear the word Rabb, it's Rububiyyah. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالِ فَأَنَّ تُصْرَفُونَ وَكَذَلِكَ حَقَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ فَسَقُوا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. So far 6 times. Now in another part of the ayah. Listen to what Allah Ta'ala says again. قُلْ مَنْ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقِ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُ. Who is the one that will start at the creation, then He will repeat it again? Meaning, Allah brought the human beings out of existence into this world. And then He will repeat it by what? Resurrecting them again. Which category Tawheed is that? Rububiyyah. Almost about 7 times. And this didn't stop there. قُلْ مَنْ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُ. That's another ayah. Then Allah Ta'ala says in another part, right after that one, He says, قُلْ هَلْ مِنْ شُرَكَائِكُمْ مَنْ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ قُلْ اللَّهُ يَهْدِي لِلْحَقِّ قُلْ أَفَمَنْ يَهْدِي لِلْحَقِّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعَ أَمَّنْ لَا يَهْدِي إِلَّا أَنْ يُهْدَى فَمَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. He says, who is the one that could guide to the truth? Is there anyone from your partners that could guide to the truth? Mean as far as control the hearts? They're going to say, of course, Allah guides to the truth. Which category of Tawheed is that, everyone? Which category? Rububiyyah again. How many times was mentioned in this context of this ayah? Almost about what, everyone? 8 times. 8 times. For what reason? These were the things that Allah Ta'ala established upon the creation to let them know by their natural disposition that He is the one that deserves to be worshipped. That these things, that if you give it to the creation, then you have committed polytheism, of course. But Allah Ta'ala, for the mushrikeen, for the polytheists during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, from the tribe of Quraysh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came with the actions of Himself in order to establish upon them the argument that He deserves to be worshipped. And all these different ayat. Notice, like we said, here in this context it was mentioned 8 times. Now, let's go to this ayah which is in your books, it's Surah An-Naml. So now that you know, the category of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is singling out Allah Ta'ala by His what? By His actions. Not His worship. By His actions. What is the reason? Camden and what's this stuff? Caden. Now, Allah mentions His actions for another category. To let you know that He is the one that what? Deserves to be worshipped. That's the other category of Tawheed of monotheism. So Allah Ta'ala came at the affair which was already established within, if not the loins, but in the minds and the belief system of the people. that if you know internally within your conviction and your belief that these affairs is only for Allah, then that brings you back to the reason for your existence and why you're here, which is that you have to unify Him in the other category of Tawheed, which is Tawheed al-Uluhiyah, which is unification of Allah in His worship. Or you can say Allah being singled out by the actions of the servants, where Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is the actions of Allah. Tawheed al-Uluhiyah, or you could call it Tawheed al-Ibadah of worship, is the actions of the servants, which is the actions of worship, because worship is the actions of who, everyone? Of the human beings, of the servants, of the ibad. So Allah Ta'ala, as we said, mentions Rububiyyah in order for what? In order to establish Uluhiyah. So if you want to say, as Ahl Ilm constantly mention, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah تستلزم توحيد الألوهية وتوحيد الألوهية تتضمن توحيد الربوبية. Where he says, you'll find that Ahl Ilm have mentioned and say that Rububiyyah necessitates Uluhiyah, meaning that Allah mentions it in the Quran. When you see actions, He's the one that owns the sights. He's the one that administers the affairs. He's the one that has sent down the rain. He's the one that will bring the life from the dead and the dead alive. Or He is the one that guides to the truth only. Or He would say to the people, say, is it from your partners of who you associate partners with Allah, and who you worship as statues, or who you worship from the human beings? Is there any from them who have brought the human beings out into existence? And when He causes them to die, He will bring them to be resurrected again. Who from the human beings or from the creation could do that? So Allah Ta'ala is addressing at what your mind now knows instinctively, which is, you will say Allah. Why? Because of the Quraysh, of the mushrikeen of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and the polytheists from before, of course. All the type of polytheism they used to work, or they used to put forth, and what they used to commit of polytheism and idolatry. They knew in the back of their minds that ultimately it was for Allah. The only reason why they used to do it is because they used to take those idols as mediators and intercessors and middlemen between them and Allah. And it's the same thing as Jesus, the son of Mary, where you'll find where the Christians say the exact same thing. What do they say? No, in order to get to the Father, you have to go through the Son. You took Him as a mediator, intercessor again, which is the same satanic trick that Shaitan pulled on the people of the past. He still pulled it in another way. However, with another what? Another human being and another creation and in another so-called religion and manner. But it's the same trick, same satanic trick that Shaitan utilized from the time of old all the way up to the time of now. However, in these days and times, the reality is that the people and their belief system is more evil and more corrupt, even though a lot of them are Muslim. How? Because if Allah came addressing the people with their mindset of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah being correct and sound, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was coming at them in an affair which was already in their minds. It was already known. Who's the one that who is the one that created the heavens and the earth? Who is the one that sends down the rain? Is it Jesus? Who is the one that brought the human beings from out of non-existence to existence? Was it Jesus, the son of Mary? Was it the angels? Was it Shaitan? Was it the human beings? Was it the sun? Was it the moon? Was it the star? They knew that ultimately is the one, Allah is the one that does this alone. So Allah came at them and addressed them at this matter. You know that none of the human beings that are worshipped, none of the creation that are worshipped can do this at all. Jesus didn't do it. Uzayr didn't do it. The Son didn't do it. Abdul Qadir Jilani didn't do it. Muhammad did not do it. No one did it except Allah. So Allah Ta'ala came with this affair. Right, everyone? Muhammad Sallallahu. He came with this affair in order to establish upon them that Allah Ta'ala is the one that what? Deserves to be worshipped. So every time you see these ayat, now look in the Quran, in Surah An-Naml, same exact thing. Now let's go back to now Surah An-Naml. Read what it says. As for the one who created the heavens and the earth. Which category of monotheism is that? Which category of Tawheed? Rububiyyah. Count. How many? How many examples so far? And he sent down for you from the heavens rain or water. Huh? Which category is that? Rububiyyah. How many examples of rububiyyah we count so far? And he brought forth فَأَنْبَتْنَا بِهِ حَدَائِقَ ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ. And we brought forth the gardens which are joyful and beautiful, in which you look at and you take delight in. Which category? How many examples so far? And it was not for you that you would bring about and make the trees grow or come forth. Still rububiyyah. So how many examples that? Now look to the ass part of the ayah. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? What does he say? Is there a deity along with Allah in worship? Rather, they are people that make the creation equal with Allah. بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ. So Allah mentioned Tawheed al-Rububiyyah 4 times in this ayah. And to point you out with the ultimate goal of you as the human being, or why you're here on this earth in the first place. Why are you walking around? Telling you so you don't have to be like the rest of these zombies out here that don't know why they're here. That's why they act like animals or worse. Coming at your mind and telling you why you're created. You know instinctively, in your innate nature, your natural disposition, that Allah Ta'ala is the one that does these actions. Now he's bringing you in that last part of the ayah. What does it say, everyone? Is there a deity that deserves to be worshipped along with Allah? Rather, they are people who make the creation equal with Allah. بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ. Let's now go to the next part. 61 is Surah An-Naml. Again, if you read the ayah, stay with me, Camden. Stay with me, brother. Now Allah says, who is the one that made the earth firm? Who made the earth stable ground? Which category Tawheed is that? Which one? How many examples is mentioned in this ayah so far? You can say 5. And he وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا. And he made also between it, mean the earth, rivers. Which category of monotheism is that? Rububiyyah. And he also made for it the mountains as pegs to keep it firm. Which category Tawheed? How many examples have been mentioned so far? 7. And he made between the 2 rivers or the 2 seas a barrier. Which category? And mashallah, I was able to witness the barrier. I seen it with my own eyes. I seen the barrier that Allah makes between the 2 seas. If you go to Barbados, because I went to Barbados before. I was in Barbados. Barbados, on the other side of the island, I think is where the Atlantic Ocean and the, astaghfirullah. Is it the Pacific? I think it's the Atlantic and Pacific meet at. And they don't intertwine with each other. It's crazy. Exactly what Allah mentioned is you see it right in front of your own eyes. I seen it when I was on Barbados and I went to the mountain where the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean meet, and you see the barrier right between. They can't cross each other. It's like a barrier there, where one doesn't override the other. You see it with your own eyes. In that particular weather, it was rough because in the island, like you said, it's real rough, especially when they land in Pacific on certain days. They're huge and they're violent. But at any rate, they pointed out to me, they said, this is where the Atlantic Pacific meet, right here. So I looked at it and I was like, wow. I mean, it's a crazy sight. It's a beautiful sight at the same time, but it's like exactly what Allah mentioned in the Quran is exactly what's played out here, right in front of my eyes. He says, who is the one that makes between the what? The ocean, the 2 different oceans, a barrier where they don't override each other. Which category of Tawheed is that? Rububiyyah. How many examples of Rububiyyah has been mentioned so far? 8. Then Allah ends the ayah off with what? Again, which category? Uluhiyyah. Is there a deity along with Allah that deserves to be worshipped? That's the other category. So Allah is establishing all these acts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Certain context. All to establish what? Uluhiyyah. If you know, brothers and sisters, that this is exactly what Allah has mentioned is so many. If you notice in I just gave you in another context, Allah mentioned it about 8 times. How in the world can you think that the Muslims are going to be victorious when they're not busying themselves with this, of what we're talking about now? How? How in the world? You come to Masajid, they don't even mention this at all. Some Muslims, I know they've been Muslims for years, come and say, I never even heard of this. And they've been Muslims for years. I never even hear in my masjid I've been going to for 10, 15 years, I never even talk about this. And this is the da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is what he was instilling in their minds of the people. However, the Quraysh during the time of the Prophet ﷺ already knew this. This was intact. That's the reason why Allah came at them with that aspect of rububiyyah. He came at them because they knew that. Their understanding of monotheism was more intact, even though some of them was upon kufr. There's some of the Muslims who do say la ilaha illallah in this aspect specifically. In this aspect specifically. Why? Because they knew that Allah what? Does these things, and he does these affairs alone. They knew, even the Quraysh knew the meaning of la ilaha illallah. They knew the correct meaning of it, which is better than some of the Muslims of these days. That's the reason why some of them refrained to say it, because they knew if they uttered it, what would be binding upon them now, and what it would necessitate, of what would be upon them to now do in certain affairs. That's why some of them were what? Hesitant to say it, because they knew clearly what the meaning meant was unifying Allah and his worship. They knew what it was going to be binding upon them, that now they would have to rid themselves of every single deity that they used to worship in every single way, in every single aspect. And they knew that the meaning of la ilaha illallah necessitated there's no deity worthy of truth except Allah. To let you know that the Quraysh had full, correct, proper understanding of la ilaha illallah. That's why some of them was hesitant to utter it, because they knew the proper meaning of it. In contrast to some of the Muslims who are upon it and say it, and they still don't know the meaning of it. And some of them have a meaning of it that's contrary to what was even understood with the Quraysh, where they understood it properly. And not only that, you'll find that there also was some of the Muslims from the deviant sects have what? Deviated in an affair that's unprecedented, like we said. They deviated in the aspect of rububiyyah. That is more worse and horrific and more what? Erroneous and more evil than what the Quraysh were upon during the time of the Prophet ﷺ in this specific aspect. Why? Because the Quraysh didn't make shirk with Allah in this category of rububiyyah. They only made shirk and polytheism with Allah in what? In uluhiyyah. That was it. And it's crazy because you can imagine that the fact that a person commit polytheism in the affair of uluhiyyah was enough for them to be in the hellfire forever. What about a person who makes a shirk with affair of rububiyyah, which is something unprecedented? Of people who say la ilaha illallah, from the Rawafid and the Shia, from the Shia and the Rawafid, who say that, for example, there are 12 imams that can conduct in this existence. That's shirk and rububiyyah. Then you have people who's upon the ways of being from the extremists of the Sufiya, like Ali Jifri and other than them, who say that Allah can create, the awliya, the human beings can create and have knowledge of the unseen as far as in the arham, or the wombs of the woman, and can create. For brothers now who learn these affairs, you would say, subhanAllah, look how the Muslims had gone so far, that this is not even something that the kuffar of the Quraysh, who the Prophet ﷺ came to give da'wah with, fell into. And then the people wonder why the Muslims are in the state that they're in now. You're coming with something in an affair of a deviance and something that is the that is the root and the main ingredient of what makes you a Muslim. You've warped that. And then you expect now that Allah is going to give us all this victory and bring us out of the darkness which we're in now and the turmoil that we're in now. And you came with an affair that not even the kuffar, the Quraysh, fell into. And that was enough for them, what they fell into during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that they were in hell forever. As far as a deviation in that aspect. What about people who say that there are human beings that have knowledge of the unseen? There are human beings that can conduct in this existence. There are human beings that know and can create in the wombs of the women. There are human beings, or there are people from the creation that can administrate the affairs and handle certain things in your life and change the course of your life or change the direction of your life. This is a polytheism in the aspect of rububiyyah, which was something that was totally unprecedented, something that was totally was not unacceptable even in the minds of the polytheists during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? This affair of what we were speaking about is the reason of why we would change the course of what? Societies. Then you have callers who go overseas for years and then come back and totally ignore this affair. And then you got the nerve when we speak out against it and say you're just jealous. How we are jealous when you see that this man, I don't care how many years he studied, he's coming back, he's not implementing 1, 2, 3 with the Muslims yet. Now he wants to start with calculus, but you didn't start with the basics. But you go to Medina and teach the people in the Haram, Kitaab At-Tawheed. But when you come to the people of what? Here in America, not a word. Who are you? What's your identity? Who are you? This is the reason why we focus on what? These matters. Because of the importance of it, and Allah himself made and showed the importance of it, where you see these ayat what? Mentioned 6, 7, 8 times. What? In order to what? Establish and put in your mind why you were created. You were created to what? Worship him alone. Then Allah says in the next ayat, which is in your books right here, again. Now listen to what Allah says. After he established all these affairs, what we just mentioned, then he mentions that which is in your books, in everyone's book. Who is the one that answers? The muttar. Who is the one that answers? The one who is desperate and in a state of stress, when he's facing problems, in a state of anguishment. He's facing where he has lost all hope as far as people who can help him. Has no one to turn to except Allah. And every human being, I'm sure in this room and who's listening online, has had this type of what? Had this type of time in their life where they had no one to turn to except Allah. They lost all hope in turning towards anyone or anything. And only one they had was Allah to bring them out of it. Listen to what Allah says in this book, and it's in your books right now in front of you. This is all part of Surah An-Naml. Who is the one that answers the what? The muttar. The one who's in that state of anguishment and severe stress and severe adversity and difficulty and life-threatening. Which category of monotheism is this, everyone? Answer. Huh? No, who's the one that answers? Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. And he makes dua to Allah. And he removes the hardship. He removes the hardship. Which category? Which category of Rububiyyah is this? EB? Oh, it's EB not there. Which category of Tawheed is this? And he removes the evil. Which category? EB, which category of Tawheed is this? Rububiyyah. How many times so far have we added up? About 9 to 10 times. And he makes you successors in the earth. Which category? Rububiyyah. Keep in mind, we said Rububiyyah is the actions of Allah. What Allah makes happen, what he does amongst the creation by administrating their affairs. Then Allah ends the ayat off with what, everyone? What does it say? What does it say in your book? After he's established that again. Makes you successors in the earth. Guys, are you in your books? What does it say? It's not in there. That says it removes pain and that's it? Oh, I thought the whole ayah was mentioned. I'm sorry, I apologize. Taib. He makes you successors in the earth. It ends the ayat off again. أَإِلَهُمْ مَعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Is there any deities associated with partners along with Allah in his worship? Very little do you take heed. Again, uluhiyah. So Allah mentioned all those reasons of what he does. Because everyone knows Allah Ta'ala is coming at an affair which happens to every human being, even with our young youth, in which we prepare them for life. Because everyone, and even our youth, from whether it be from Abdullah, Ibrahim, Camden, or astaghfirullah, in Caden. There's going to come a point in your life, of course, where Allah will test you. And you will have no one to turn to except Allah. And this is what Allah has mentioned in the Quran. Who is the one that calls, who's the one that answers you? Meaning when you are in a state when you are in dire need, you are severe stress, you're facing severe difficulty in your life. And you call on him, and he removes your evil and removes your difficulty. He removes it. And he makes you successors in the earth. Is there any deity along with Allah that deserves to be worshipped? Very little do you take heed. Everyone knows that when you will, and may Allah forbid, everyone knows they had that type of circumstance in their life where they had no one to turn to, where everything was weighing down heavy upon them. I'm sure that everyone has faced that type of circumstance. And also something life-threatening. I'm sure that some of us have been in circumstances where our life, as they say, flashed in front of us, where it was something of a car accident or something where the plane was about to crash. And this is what Allah mentions in his book. This is what the mushrikeen also used to do. They knew in a time of difficulty, then they used to what? Return back to their natural disposition of Tawheed. When they seen that their life was about to be removed. Whether it be when they were in the ocean and the waves became 100 feet or more high. And and the boat was about to what? Crash. And when people are in the airplane thousands of feet up in the air and the plane is about to crash. Or you find that you're in the car and the car is spinning out of control and your life is flashing in front of you. In that particular instance, Allah is saying what? You return back to him. When these things happen to you, you return back to your fitrah. What's the first thing that comes to a lot of people's mind, huh? Oh, Allah, save me. Oh, God, save me. Save me. Your heart starts pounding fast. Oh, God, please help me. You're going to return back to your fitrah. Then Allah says in his book, as soon as you return back to the land, or now he's giving you relief, you go back to your shirk. You go back to your polytheism. So which one is it? The mushrikeen during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, like we know, used to only commit shirk with Allah during the time of what, everyone? During the time of ease. Not during the time of what? Difficulty. As far as in these days and times, you'll find that people are in a worse state, where they commit shirk in both circumstances, whether it be in a time of hardship or ease. You'll find that. To let you know how far and how minute the minds of the people have become and how deviated their understanding is of La ilaha illallah and how they deviated in an affair in which Allah has created all the human beings naturally upon, which was the natural disposition and inclination towards worshiping Allah alone. فَيَا مَعَشَ الْإِخْوَةِ, this is what Allah Ta'ala was mentioned in Surah An-Naml here. There's a benefit I wanted to stop here and mention. If you notice in the ayah, they don't have it in your book again. If you notice in your books that it says he makes you successors in the earth. A lot of some of the people from the ambiguities that spread, they will say that Adam, Abu al-Bashar, the father of human beings, that he is the successor of Allah on the earth. Is that correct? That Adam is the successor of Allah on the earth. Is that correct? Is it correct or not? A successor of who, though? Is it of Allah? Is it even permissible to say that the human beings are successor for Allah on the earth? Is that permissible? Not permissible. It's not. So what is intended? What's intended is that Allah makes successors of the human beings succeeding one another. Of the human beings. Succeeding one another. Whether it be in the kingdoms or whether it be of people, certain people being well off and rich, or certain people being in a state of poverty, or certain alhamdulillah. Or certain people having in a state of prominence or in a state of humiliation. This is all part of successorship. And this is what happened at every time and every place. We know, and if you look at the state of now, there's certain people who are impoverished, there's certain people who are wealthy, and there's certain people who are what? Who Allah is disgracing, and you have certain people who Allah is giving them what? Prominence and success. This is all part of successorship in the earth. And with that, Allah succeeds the human being, make them succeed one another. As far as their lineage and what they lead as far and what they leave as far as their what? Their families and those who have of children who they what? Succeed for those who die. And you'll find that the hikam behind that is that Allah Ta'ala allows and had also from His infinite wisdom allow for death to take human beings over in order for what? For this type of successorship to continue. Because if the people from now, from the time of Nuh, and everyone lived all together, you'll find that even some of the tafsir in the ayat, which Ibn Abbas mentioned, that if Allah had willed, He can make everyone live all together simultaneously, from the time of old and at the time of now, if He wanted. That Allah can bring the people during the time of old and allow them to still live up to the people of what? Of today. But due to the fact that that will overpopulate or that will cause some type of difficulty for living, Allah had now pre-described or preordained death. Whereas people have children, were they to be successor of their what? Of their parents, of the one who they came after. That they are the ones that inherit. From them, from those who inherit, like we said, are either from the people who are upon monotheism and righteous, which it comes in certain ayats we'll mention inshallah. But at any rate, you'll find that from certain ideologies that certain people even mention out of ignorance. In some of their books, they'll say that Adam, or the children of Adam, is the successor of Allah in the earth, which is incorrect. Meaning that successorship in the earth, or khilafah, or you say caliphate, or one coming after another, that is only for the human beings, not for Allah. As the human being is not a successor for Allah in the earth. They're only successors over one another, meaning of the human beings, not the successor of Allah in the earth. As you'll find in the ayat that certain people say, as Allah Ta'ala says to the angels, Inni ja'ilu fil ardi khalifa. Verily, I'm making in the earth a successor or a khalifa. That meaning that Allah Ta'ala, when you look in the ayah, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm going to make in the earth a khalifa. The benefit of that ayah, and I'm going to just say this quickly because we got to get back to the book. You'll find that that particular ayah was to show that Allah knew that Adam was going to get kicked out of paradise. I'll say it again. If you look to the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, verily I'm going to make in the earth a khalifa. Allah already had prior knowledge that Adam was going to what? Disobey Him. And that he was going to what? And that he was going to do something that would necessitate his exile from what? From paradise. Allah had prior knowledge of it. Which is to show that Allah Ta'ala has all perfect knowledge and He is all aware of everything. In contrast to from the deviant sects who say that Allah does not have knowledge of nothing until it happens. That's incorrect. These are some of the proofs in the book of Allah that shows that Allah has knowledge of something before it happens. He has all knowledge, He is all aware. Because Allah said, I'm going to make in the earth a what? A successor. And He said it to the angels. Showing in that Allah already knew that Adam was going to what? Do an act or commit an act that would necessitate him being removed out of paradise and put on this what? In this world. Whereas now they will have to what? They will have to struggle. They will have to be tired. They will have to go through pain. They will to all the end of it. Or they have to cover up their private parts to the end of it. They will have to go through struggling. They will have to be tired every day. They're going to have to go to sleep every day. They're going to have to go through struggles in their lives. They're going to have to go through sadness. They're going to have to go through grief. They're going to have times when they're happy. They're going to have times when they're tired. They're going to have times when they're energetic. They're going to have times when they're sick. They're going to all these different struggles that He was going to be put in this world, and that Allah Ta'ala what? Had prior knowledge of it before it happened. So the meaning of that ayah is not saying that Adam was a what? A successor for Allah. No. The ayah was to show that Allah had knowledge of what Adam was going to commit before he did it. Which is to show that Allah Ta'ala is all knowledgeable, and it refutes the notion, as we'll talk about on another occasion, the notion of the Qadariyah, of the deviant sect called the Qadariyah, who deviated in the aspect of the divine decree and destiny of Allah, where they say, from the extremists of them, that Allah has no knowledge of something until it happens, which is absolutely unacceptable and absolutely incorrect, and it is a ludicrous, far-off statement. طيب. So now, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, after we completed this ayah, where is now this ayah? How is it connected to the chapter? Look in your books. The chapter we're talking about, what everyone? What are we speaking about, Abdullah? We're speaking about istighatha. How is this ayah now, in what we've just mentioned, Surah An-Naml, how is it connected with the chapter? Looking in your book. Look at the title and look at the ayah. Make the connected. Look at your title of the chapter, look at the ayah, and make the connection. See, this is the reason why I like to teach. This is teaching. See, he's making the people's brains work. It's not just a lecture where you guys hear me talk and y'all go home and mind your business. No. There's interaction. And this is part of what teaching the people. It's making their brains work. It's able to show them where the evidence is and proofs of why the Imam Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab put this in the chapter in the first place. So we're talking about istighatha. And so now you know the meaning or the definition of istighatha. What's the meaning of it, everyone? What's the meaning of istighatha? It's a type of supplication. What type of supplication? Someone that's in a state of stress and hardship, difficult. Type. Where in the ayah does it say that? It's clear. God, tell me the answer. Yeah, tell me the answer. That's it. That's all I need to know. The chapter is entitled Istighatha. Istighatha, like we said, is a type of supplication. The supplication of the one who's facing severe stress and difficulty and adversity, and in certain cases, life-threatening in his life. So that's the meaning of istighatha. We said that that's only for what? Allah, right, everyone? And that to give that type of worship to other than Allah, of course, what is it, everyone? It's polytheism. Does it nullify Islam or not? Does it nullify Islam or not? If a person now raises their hand, so the car is about to be pushed off a cliff, and I'm in the car. Oh, so-and-so, Jesus, the son of Mary, save me. What is that? Polytheism. Or Wali, Abdul Qadir Jilani, save me, we're about to fall off. What is that? That's istighatha. It's a type of dua. Life-threatening dua. That's istighatha. When a person does that, if he does that, you have nullified your Islam. Islam is nullified. And that type of polytheism, Allah promised His book, He will never forgive it. If you do it, He will never forgive it. You have committed the most ultimate pathetic injustice that any human being could commit. You have committed the most erroneous, the most evilest, the most disgusting act that any human being could commit. Worse than killing innocent babies, worse than homosexuality, worse than killing thousands of people unjustly. It is better for you that you meet Allah upon all those acts than you meet Allah upon polytheism. Because Allah promised He will never forgive it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear what I'm saying so far, Camden? Allah promised He will never forgive that sin, ever. That you meet Allah upon every evil, meaning of sin, of whether it be fornicating, and of course we know, we're relatively speaking. We're not telling the people, we're not condoning it. We're relatively speaking, as far as the magnitude of the sin. Better that you meet Allah upon of murder or of zina, of fornication, which is all hideous, tremendous acts, which one will hope that he would never meet Allah in that aspect either. But as far as in the magnitude of sin, it's better for you to meet Allah upon that than you meet Allah upon polytheism. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And like I said, I gave the perfect example of that, which came in Sahih al-Bukhari. There was a man, like we said, from Bani Israel. He killed how many people, brothers? It's clear. The hadith is authentic. How many? 100. Unjustly. What did it say in Sahih Bukhari? What was his abode, everyone? Paradise. Why? He sought Tawbah. He wanted repentance. He had the monotheism of Allah with him. The monotheism of Allah. Allah inspired him to regretfully do what the act that he did was tremendous, and he wanted to return back to his Lord and be sincere what he did and leave off the act until Allah Ta'ala accepted his tawbah. Keep in mind that the angels, like we said, a punishment came down to take his soul. Angels of punishment came down. So that's to show that we're not condoning the act. But the angels of Rahman, they came down until they asked Allah to judge the distance of what was closest to each land, of whether it was close to the land of evil or the land of what? Of where he wanted to make tawbah towards. And they found that the distance of what he was towards the land, what he wanted to make repentance was closer. And Allah forgave him. But it's to let you know that shirk, polytheism, is the most hideous, most injustice, most disgusting act that any human being could commit. And that you meet Allah in that state is the most evilest state you can meet your Lord upon. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Tafadal. You good. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آتي محمود الوسيلة الفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب. Jamal had answered the question. Why? Because it says in the ayah in your book, istighatha is mentioned in the ayah. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, Cameron? Caden. Why I keep forgetting his name? Caden. If you look in the chapter, it says istighatha. If you look in Surah An-Naml, it says what, everyone? Who is the one that answers what? The one facing difficulty. So that's the connection of the ayah with the chapter. Who's the one that answers the what? The one who's facing a state of what? Difficulty. And he calls and invokes Allah, and Allah removes his what? Removes his pain or removes his hardship. Is there any deity along with Allah that deserves to be worshipped? Very little do you take heed. طيب. So that's the connection of the ayah here in this particular what? This particular chapter. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So you see why he put that ayah, that verse, in the chapter of istighatha. And you see how even though the word wasn't used in the ayah, but due to the keen sense and the diqqah, or that absolute preciseness and that precision that he had as far as in his understanding, rahimahullah, he was able to extract how that ayah was connected with the affair of what they call istighatha, based upon the meaning of the ayah, not necessarily the actual word. Is it clear what I'm saying? Meaning the word muttar, which is another meaning of one who's facing difficulty or having problems or facing stress or things of that nature. And he connected it with what? Istighatha. Because istighatha is what? Raising your hands and you saying, oh Allah, save me. Oh Allah, remove from me what's going on in my life. And I'm showing that is what istighatha is. If you say out of your mouth or you raise out of your hands, oh Jesus, the son of Mary. Even of the Prophet ﷺ himself. Knowing that the messenger of Allah, if he was to say, oh Muhammad, save me. Save me out of what's going on in my life. My life is just terrible. It's chaotic right now. Change the direction of my life. If you say this, you have destroyed the reasons why Jesus, the son of Mary, came, why he came, and why Muhammad came. You destroyed it in that one moment. Their whole entire mission of why they even came as prophets and messengers in the first place. When you raise your mouth and open your mouth and say out of your mouth, "Oh, Jesus, the son of Mary, save me," you've totally destroyed the whole reason why he came as a prophet and messenger. Because his whole reason of coming as a prophet and messenger was to make war with what you just did, which is polytheism. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And if you raise out of Prophet ﷺ, "Oh, Muhammad, save me. Oh, Muhammad, you are the most generous of creation. Forgive me of my sins. You have knowledge of the Lawhul Mahfuz, the preserved tablet, and the unseen." If you say this if you verbally say this out of your mouth, you have destroyed the whole mission of why the Prophet ﷺ came in the first place. You've destroyed it. Why? Because his whole mission was to what? Was to call against this type of act. And to turn to people's hearts towards what? To Allah and worship. You eradicated his message. His message was what? To make war with that. Knowing that beyond that, nothing of your actions is going to benefit you once you commit that act. Once that act you've done, then everything you did of Hajj and Umrah and Siyam and Sadaqah and all that goes out the door. Nullified. Right or wrong? Person that dies upon shirk, all your acts are nullified. Major polytheism has nullified every good you've done in this world. You might have tried to save, you might have fed the poor, you might have tried to be a good husband to your wife, or a good wife to your husband, or give sadaqah, or smile in certain people's faces, or trying to help the sick, or help the poor, or trying to aid people, or trying to make sure that you don't lie, and try to you're a truthful person, that you have good etiquette. All of that is nullified. If you have what? Committed polytheism with Allah. Major polytheism. That's the reason why we keep focusing on this and beating the people's heads with this. Because everything after this is irrelevant if you haven't got this down back yet. Is it clear what I'm saying? Jayyid. Not realizing, brothers, that this type of affairs on which we teaching, these affairs is what pleases Allah. These type of books and what we're disseminated to the people is what's pleasing to Allah, and this is what angers the shaitan. Shaitan doesn't want that we talk about these affairs. Talk about politics. Talk about the black man being involved in politics and all these other things. Shaitan loves that. Yeah, busy yourself with that. As far as the Tawheed and what shirk is, no. Shh. Don't talk about that. That's the thing that angers shaitan. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And also speaking about what's sunnah and bid'ah also. This also makes shaitan. At any rate, for the next now text, we will go on to the next one. So the last now text in the chapter, which is what, everyone? Who wants to read it? The hadith. Tafaddal. Jamar. Last hadith, last text. At-Tabarani. Sallallahu. See how they translate istighatha, seek help. I don't know why they translate seek help. Istighatha means you're seeking relief. It's not just help. Istighatha is something more than seeking help. That's how they translate it. Istighatha. Istighatha is not seeking help. It's more as seeking relief from a severe difficulty. That's istighatha. But here they translate it as seeking help. No. Istighatha is not guidance. You're seeking ghawth. Ghawth is like you're seeking aid from relief. For example, Ibn al-Qayyim has a book called Ighathatul Lahfan. Ighathatul Lahfan. Comes from the word istighatha, kind of. He says giving aid or relief to the one who's lahf, like he's he has like this real severe yearning of some type of stress. So giving him ghawth, meaning relief. It is a form of help, but when you say istighatha, it's understood that it's something more than just help. Like you're giving someone more relief, like from a dire stress that they're under. You can help somebody, but they not be under stress, or severe stress. You can help somebody out their car, just unloading their bags. That means they're under severe stress. No, not necessarily. Istighatha is like you helping a person like he's just like, oh, I just don't know what to do. That's just somebody who's like, he's like that's giving somebody ighatha or ghawth. You understand what I'm saying now? That's istighatha. It's the difference between isti'ana and istighatha. Isti'ana is something different. We'll talk about that. طيب, read the rest of the hadith because we got to finish. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I'll see you to read the hadith. Rawahu Tabarani bi isnadeh. Some of Ahl Ilm say it's da'if. Some of them say that the narration is weak. Some of them said that the meaning is definitely correct and that it took and happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And the one who sought that istighatha was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. طيب. As we talked about on many occasions, brothers, and all these affairs of ibadah, which we've been covering for the past months now at a time. For number one, before I start talking about istighatha, is there a time where it's permissible to seek it from the creation? Keep in mind what I said. Linguistically, not as far as worship. Ahsant. All the, for example, one seeking help. Not an affair of worship, but just seeking mere help from the what? From the creation of certain things you might have of different necessities that need to be taken care of. You ask someone for help. طيب. Istighatha, is that applicable here? As far as the linguistic meaning, not the meaning as far as what? Worship. Not as worship. But as far as the meaning of seeking some type of aid of relief from a human being in a difficult circumstance of something that's pertaining to, like something that, for example, like you might be in the street about to die, and you ask someone, please help me, I'm about to die. Is there any way you could give me some water? And you see he's on his last breath. That's a type of istighatha. Is that permissible? Yes, it is. Why? With the condition that Jamar just mentioned, which is what, everyone? What's the three conditions? What are they? He has to be what? Present? Able? What's the last one? Present, able, have the ability. All three, write it down. You need to know that. Present, alive, and able to do it. Has to be in the ability of the creation. Hadir, qadir, hay. He has to be present. He has to be what? He has to be present. He has to be what? Alive and able. Able. طيب. Istighatha here. Wasn't the Prophet ﷺ, didn't he have all three conditions fulfilled? In this particular narration, if you look in your book, what do you see? All three of those conditions were fulfilled. The Prophet ﷺ was alive. The Prophet ﷺ was able. And the Prophet ﷺ was what? He was present. So what is the intent of this narration here if you look in your books? What's the intent? Don't worry, I'm explaining it. Don't worry. If you have the answer, hold it in your head. Before we get to the last part of the narration, it says in your books, if you look in it, that during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a munafiq. What is a munafiq? Hypocrite. What is a hypocrite? Just briefly, just to let everyone know, after the battle of Badr, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, after the battle of Badr, which was a tremendous battle, the battle of they called to separate truth between truth and falsehood. When the Prophet ﷺ won the battle of Badr, it gave Islam, it put haiba, it instilled fear in the people. There was now respect. And not only respect, along with that respect was fear. So now a lot of the polytheists and the people upon idolatry, they started to now see that there was a severe power and a problem now, right? That they knew that they wasn't able to what? Defeat. So there was a group of people now after the battle of Badr and during the hijrah of the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, when he migrated to Medina. They knew they couldn't defeat the Prophet ﷺ. We can't stop this call to monotheism and stop this call of eradicating shirk and eradicating polytheism and unifying Allah or unifying the people in worship upon one deity and all these other things. So now let's take another trick. So now they wanted to act like they were Muslims, but however they were what? Hiding behind it, disbelief, which is called a hypocrite. The word even nafaq in the Arabic language means something that covers. Nafaq in the Arabic language is like a tunnel. How is it all connected? Munafiq, nafaq, or anfaq. Why? Because something that covers up something is hiding up something behind it. And that's what a munafiq is doing. He's displaying something, but he's hiding behind it what? Something else. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they wanted to now enter in their ranks due to the fact that they knew they wanted to live amongst the Muslims. They knew that they had the honor. They knew that they had the power. But however, they didn't love Islam, nor did they believe in it. So they was hiding behind them being Muslim during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is a munafiq. This is a hypocrite. So we know that Allah Ta'ala said about these people, what everyone? That these people are in the lowest part of hell. They're in the lowest part of the hellfire. Why? Because they're the most deceptive and the most treacherous. Why? Why, everyone? Because they're people who profess something, look like you, but they're in actuality your enemy, and they're right next to you. Those are the most dangerous than a person who's your outside what? Enemy, that who you know what we're upon or what you're upon. The enemy that's right next to you who's coming and disguising himself and impersonating you is the most what? Treacherous and the most dangerous. Right or wrong? That's the reason why the Prophet ﷺ that's why Allah Ta'ala said that they're what, everyone? They're the most deceptive, the most dangerous, and that's the reason why they deserve the most worst of what? Punishments. Because of their deception and their treachery of getting close and then what? Spreading their poison amongst the ranks of the people. That's the reason why Allah Ta'ala says in his book, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ وَلَن تَجِدَ لَهُمْ نَصِيرًا. The hypocrites are in the lowest part of hell, and you will never find anyone that will aid them once they enter it. The lowest part of hell? And we know that the Prophet ﷺ described that his uncle was in the lightest part. And he said when he's seen it in a dream, or he's seen in a vision of his uncle being tortured, he said that I thought that he was in the lowest part of hell. Then it was revealed to me he was in the lightest part. So keep in mind, the lightest part of hell, the Prophet ﷺ seen his uncle, he thought he was where? He was in the lowest part. Imagine the actual lowest part of hell. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? I'll say it again. The Prophet ﷺ seen Abu Talib, his uncle, in the lightest part of hell. The lightest. He said that when I seen him being tortured, he said it was upon him, of course, his sandal, 2 shoes in which his brain would be boiling from. Right? And the narration said, I thought that he was in the lowest part of hell when I seen him. I thought he was from the most of those who were receiving the worst of torture. And he was those who are what? The lightest. What about the person who's in the lowest, definitely in the lowest part of hell? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? This is to let you know how hypocrisy is dangerous. Hypocrisy still exists, and it comes in other forms. From them, of people who are similar in nifaq, is the people of deviation. People who come in the form of Salafiyah and come and to be within the ranks. And people who come with certain statements. Like, I'm in the middle. I'm what? I'm just going to be neutral. I don't agree with the truth and I don't agree with falsehood. I'm in the middle. So when you have the opportunity, you could go to the people of what? Of the enemies and be with them. Then at the same time, you can now utilize those statements to go to the people of what? Of Iman and the truth and be with them. Isn't that similarity to how the hypocrites used to conduct themselves? They used to come to the Muslims and say, we're with you. Then they would go back to the people of Kufr and we say, we mock at those who believe. This exact similarities of the people of deviance, of the people who are upon innovation, especially in these days and times where the people of the Salafiyin and Ahlul Haq are tested with these people who come in the cloak and come up in their masajid and try to get close to you, acting like they're with you, acting like we agree with you, acting like we're with you, we're with everything you say. But however, they're waiting for the opportunity where they can what? Start to now release their poison and destroy you from within. Those similarities are similarities of nifaq. We do not call them munafiqeen, but there are similarities of why the reason why the ulama say they are the most what? Dangerous. Because it is resemblance of the munafiqeen. The munafiqeen, we know hypocrisy breaks down to two categories, as we know. The first category of hypocrisy is in your belief system, as we know. Number one, first category, Camden, of hypocrisy, and Cameron, Caden. The first type of hypocrisy is the hypocrisy of belief, meaning in your belief system, in your heart, where which you absolutely disbelieve in Islam. I'm just acting like a Muslim, but I don't believe in it. I despise it, but I just want to be amongst them because I just want to destroy them from within, or what have you. Those people are kuffar. Those people are kuffar. They are not Muslim. That type of hypocrisy is called nifaq i'tiqadi. Nifaq, hypocrisy of the belief. Meaning inwardly, internally in yourself, you do not believe in it. You don't believe in Islam, right? I hate Islam. I don't have nothing to do with it. I'm just wear thobe. I wear all these affairs of clothes and I dress and look. But my intention is to what? Destroy them from within. Those people are kuffar. Then you have the second type of hypocrisy. The second category is hypocrisy of the actions. Nifaq amali. Second category, Caden. Hypocrisy of the actions manifests itself of what we know. Where we know the Prophet alamatul al-munafiq thalath. The sign of a hypocrite, meaning in his actions, are what? 3. And there's more to signs than that. One narration says, we know everyone. What is it? إذا حدث كذب وإذا وعد أخلف وإذا تمن خان وفي رواية وإذا عاهد غدر وإذا خاصم فجر. So in actuality, it's 5 characteristics, which is another narration which will explain. You have hypocrisy of the actions, where a person is still Muslim. But the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has all these characteristics in him, then he's a munafiq khalis. He's a pure hypocrite. But if he has one of them in them, then he will have a characteristic of hypocrisy until he leaves it off. What is it? He says if he speaks, he lies. Which is a characteristic of what, everyone? Of hypocrisy. إِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذَبْ. If he speaks, he lies. وَإِذَا وَعَدَ أَخْلَفْ. And if he promises, he betrays his promise. وَإِذَا تُمِنَ خَانٍ. And if he's given a trust, he betrays it. He's treacherous, perfidious, betrays it. Treacherous. Doesn't carry it out. I give you a trust. Don't tell nobody this. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا حَدَّثَكَ الرَّجُلُ ثُمَّ الْتَفَتْ فَهِيَ أَمَانَةٌ. If a man tells you something, then he turns away, that's a trust he's giving you. It's not for you now to go spread it amongst the people. That's a sign of what? Hypocrisy. It's a characteristic of hypocrisy. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Then the Prophet ﷺ gave other two characteristics that added on to these three. In another narration, he said, وَإِذَا عَاهَدَ غَدَرْ وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرْ. He says, and if he makes a pact or a testimony or treaty, he breaks it. It's another sign of a hypocrite. And then in another narration, he says, وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرْ. And if he argues or he disputes, he does it in a very impudent, very disrespectful, and a very insulting and curseful manner, a manner which is what? Absolutely unacceptable. Starts to use foul language, starts to lie, starts to now to what? He now starts to use very, very hideous or evil type of what? Affairs as far as in his argumentation, acting in a very, very, very disrespectful manner, in a very unacceptable manner, irrational, unacceptable behavior. إِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرْ. Once he starts to dispute, he becomes a fajr. Cursing, arguing, using and insults and cursing and raising his voice. That's what? Part of a sign of a hypocrite. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? He says the Prophet ﷺ, if he has all these characteristics in him, then he's a pure what? Hypocrite. But if he has one of them, then he will always have a sign of hypocrisy until he what? Leaves it off. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So this is the meaning of hypocrisy. Where a person professes something openly, whereas he's hiding something what? Internally within himself, within his heart, something different. In contrast to what he's displaying. Is it clear? During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and we'll end it off here because we've got to pray and other people are waiting. It says that there was a munafiq that used to harm the mu'mineen. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So some of them, it was said in the narration that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq raised the notion, let us stand and seek istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ. Istighatha. Here translated as help, but what is intended is istighatha. Let's seek istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ. We said, linguistically, of course, it's all correct. The Prophet ﷺ was what, everyone? He was alive. He was also what? Present, and he was also what? Able. Permissible. So what's prohibited here? As Ahl Ilm will keep it short and concise, what Ahl Ilm is prohibiting here, brothers and sisters, is to use the word in the context. Let's make istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ. Meaning that the Prophet ﷺ, when he came with his mission, not only did he what? Close the doors of polytheism off in every way. From making, for example, praying in graveyards, or raising lanterns and putting them above graves, or raising graves high, or building domes. Why did the Prophet ﷺ do all this and prohibited this? Out of fear that would be what? As a reason for the people to fall into what? Polytheism. Prophet ﷺ then only prohibited that in the affairs of those particular matters, even in statements that may lead eventually down the line to what? The people falling into what? Polytheism. That's the reason why it was prohibited here, linguistically. Of not saying, let us seek istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ. That's the reason why it says in the narration what? Verily, istighatha is not sought with me. It's only sought with Allah. Meaning the Prophet ﷺ said to protect the door of monotheism, to seal off the door of polytheism, do not say this statement. So later on, maybe perhaps the people will be fooled or somewhat ignorant, will now actually start to make istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ in worship. Is it clear? Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? It's clear as it needs to be repeated. Jayyid. So that's the reason why you'll find that the great Imam mentioned this in his book. Here is why he mentioned this particular narration. Not because it wasn't impermissible, as far as the linguistic aspect, not worship, linguistically of what the Prophet ﷺ was able to do. He was able to remove the harm from this munafiq. He was able to give relief to the mu'mineen, and he was also present, and he was able. He was alive at the time. If this was during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said this during his life, and he prohibited that, don't even use it in the aspect of what? Even in a statement. what about people who truly make istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ? Don't you think he would be very highly upset? He said, now even use it in the statement, even though what was correct. Here in this particular instance in the book, he was alive, he was present, he was able. In this particular context, right or wrong, everyone? And he's still prohibited. Don't even use that in the statement, out of fear that one day that somebody will take that statement and start really making istighatha, making it worship of the Prophet ﷺ and seeking relief from the Prophet ﷺ. What about people who actually now make istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ, from those Muslims who put it in the burda of al-Busayri, as I talked about on many occasions, of them making poetry, of making istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ. Istighatha. O Allah, O Messenger of Allah, he says, who is the one that can attain refuge and seek refuge in? When evil things take place in this existence, that's istighatha. If you don't take me by my hand on the day of resurrection, on the day when I slip, or if you don't take me by my hand to say that my feet will slip, meaning I will be in destruction. Meaning you need to save me. Istighatha. In which you'll find people such as, like we talked about on many occasions, as these type of poetry of polytheism is written in gold. And people care about it more than memorizing the book of Allah. And you will find that they make them memorize it from their followers, such as Hamzah Yusuf, who glorifies this type of poetry. And he tells them to memorize it. Memorization of polytheism filled with shirk and istighatha other than Allah. And this is in poetry. Where you find in this particular hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't say that even in the statement, out of fear one day that it will lead one down to truly make an istighatha with the Prophet ﷺ. So he shut the door off, and despite of that, you'll start finding that some Muslims have fell into it. Not only did they fall into it, but also likewise they're calling to it. Calling to it. And like I said, all these affairs clarifies the wonder why the Muslims are in the circumstances and predicament that they're in. You have fell into something that will cause the ultimate destruction of the world. The ultimate destruction of the world is polytheism. There's nothing more worse than that. And you have now not only made the people you bind upon them to memorize this type of poetry, even say that if you don't do that, that's polytheism. What I'm telling you to memorize this poetry, that's Tawheed. This is Tawheed. That poetry is shirk. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Last thing we'll leave off, we'll pray. Allah Ta'ala has made that clear, that those people who will inherit the earth has made it with two conditions, as we talked about before. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ وَلِيُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَىٰ لَهُمْ وَلِيُبَدِّلَنَّهُم مِّن بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا. إيش الشروط التي يلزمهم تحقيقها؟ يعبدونني ولا يشركوا بي شيئا ومن كفر بعد ذلك فقد ضل سواء السبيل. Allah Ta'ala says in his book, and I think it's Surah Al-Hajj. It's Surah Al-Hajj. Allah Ta'ala says, Allah has promised those who believe from amongst you, He will make you successors in the earth. That goes exactly in the ayah we just mentioned a couple of minutes, about half an hour ago. Just as He made those successors of those who came before you. And He will establish for you the religion of what you're pleased with. And He says, and He will turn after their fear and their insecurity. After that, He will give them security. What's the conditions of why? What did Allah mention? How can you attain that? Successorship, being well established in the earth, having security in the land, security within yourself, security in your life. What Allah mentioned in the last part of the ayah? They worship me alone. Don't set up any partners with me. So that's the only thing that's going to rectify what? Society. Jayid, like I said, everyone, you keep knocking on this door of monotheism. If you keep telling the people, eventually you come knocking on the door, Allah will start to open up the door of tawfiq. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? It shows you start to see the change. As long as shaitan allows me to stay here. Which every place I go, shaitan always causes a trick amongst the people to get me out. Like, AbdurRazzaaq, we got to get you out of there too. We're going to do something and put some evil thoughts in the minds of the people to get you out of there. It happens all the time. That call you calling to? No. You got to go. We got to get you out of there. Get him out of here. طيب. Any questions about the lesson? Any questions about the lesson? تفضل Camden. تفضل. Say it again. After the class. Any questions about the lesson? تفضل. استغفر I forgot. عمر. تفضل. If he promises, he betrays his promise. And if he given a trust, he betrays his trust. Is that it? And the other one is if he makes a pact or a treaty or testimony, he breaks it. And if he argues, that's got to be one of the funniest things I've seen all day. That's funny. That is funny. No, in Surah An-Naml, ayat number, let me see, 60, it starts at 60, but what's in your books is 62. Any other questions, everyone? Don't feel shy, EB. You can see the barrier on YouTube. I think they put it on there for the oceans. You can see it. I seen it with my own eyes when I went to Barbados. When I went to Barbados, I seen it with my own eyes, the barrier. It's beautiful. You can see it clear. Say it again. Yeah, it's one of the places. It's in Barbados. With the Pacific and the Atlantic. What's it? The Pacific and Atlantic? Or which one is it? It's the fresh and the... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So it's just, exactly. It's the fresh water and the salt water that don't meet. All right, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. So it's the fresh water, because that's the meaning of it. Where the salt water and the fresh water don't meet with each other. Yeah, I stand corrected. Tafadal. On the Chesapeake Bay, okay. So I'm standing corrected. It's not with the Atlantic Pacific meet, everyone. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's wrong. It's when the salt water meets with the natural water and they don't meet and they don't combine. All right? That's what I seen in Barbados. I seen it. It's amazing. I thought he was coming, pray. Who called it? Oh, me. Yeah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat, hayya ala salat. Qad qamat as-salat, qad qamat as-salat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. استوى اعتدلوا تراصوا